Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining today. Now, this is a little stream I wanted to do because I am in Melbourne at the moment and it's a pretty rainy sort of day. Not really too much to do. I thought I'd pull out bits of paper again and start doing a bit of sketching because I've had a really good run over the last few days. I've done something like 8 paintings over the course of 4 days. Yeah, about 4 days. So quite happy to continue on and see how we go. There's a couple of scenes that I've had in the back of my sort of these folders on my computer, and I thought to myself, they're a little bit tricky. I've never painted ones like this before, but you know what? I thought we'll give it a go anyway. One of them is actually a street scene, which is not too far off from what I usually paint, but I really like how the light patterns, as you can see here, the side of the screen, the light patterns are quite stark. Though I'm thinking I want to make them look a bit more softer, some of these shadows, and maybe leave a bit of additional light on the building. So, yeah, one thing we'll have to decide is, basically in terms of the shadows, which direction they're going to go. So there's a few little decisions here that I need to make, and haven't made any of those decisions yet, but throughout the stream, I'm going to walk you through my process and show you how I do it. It might work out, it might not, but the biggest thing I want to show you in this stream and this workshop basically is how to paint light. Okay, some basic techniques on how to emphasize light, make those paintings pop, because a lot of the time I think beginners start out painting watercolors and you think you need to add paint, you know, kind of like acrylics and oils where you have to mix up a lighter color, go over the top of something, and it's going to be lighter. But it's the opposite way in watercolors. You have to mix up a really sort of thin layer of paint, lots of water, only a little bit of paint, and essentially allow that layer to show through until the end in order to portray light. So you basically make everything around darker. Okay, so yeah, looking at this reference, it's kind of tricky actually to determine where exactly the light source is coming from. I'm kind of confused myself even when I'm looking at the scene. Is the light source coming from the front? Is it coming from the back? You know, is it coming from kind of like top left? So that's another thing. We can change the light source to make the scene look a little bit more interesting and varied. And you know, especially in the ground here in the foreground, I do notice there is almost a lack of light in a lot of this area. So it might be the case that I potentially get the light source to come from maybe the left, the back left or something like that. It still shows a bit of light on the building to the left hand side, but allows me to get in a sharper shadow for some of these cars. So it is a bit of a funny time that I'm streaming, and I know a lot of people watching here, probably not for my usual audience. It's, probably people in the UK and in the States are sleeping at the moment. I've got Angie here. Good evening, Darren. I'd like to watch, but the stream is freezing. Okay, hope it's better at the moment. Sometimes at the start of the stream, it takes a little while for everything to get going. But yeah, it seems to be going all right for me now. In the start of the stream as well, it just replays a video over and over. If you're watching here on Facebook, I do see a bunch of viewers here on Facebook. Leave a chat. Let me know whereabouts you're watching from. Just a little bit about yourself and what you want to get out of today, so I can hopefully answer some of your questions and give you a bit of value from attending today's workshop. Yeah, but it'd be interesting to see, if you could let me know whereabouts you're from, and let me know what the audio and the video is like. Hopefully it's all running smoothly. You can hear me fine. Okay, but yeah, it's not my usual time that I stream, and I didn't expect too many people to be on here, but I'm pulling out the paper, getting out that pencil and paper, starting to sketch in watercolors. And I think one of the biggest, most important things, like I've talked about a lot this week, is basically doing a small sketch every day. Finding a bit of paper, even if it's just a bit of scrap paper, and painting on that without any particular end goal, without thinking of getting a completed painting at the end, just getting that brush on the paper and practicing. And that way you're really going to learn, and you reduce that pressure as well of ending up with a finished product. Well, you do end up with a finished product, but not having that pressure that you need to come up with something absolutely amazing. So anyway, love to hear from some of you. I'm going to get started on the painting for this one now. And I still haven't quite decided on the light source. It's a little bit tricky. I actually think the light source is coming from the right. Might be coming from the right, but maybe like lower down. It's kind of interesting. Can't tell. Because you can see on the ground there are some little lines of light running on the ground, but I can't quite tell. It's an interesting scene. Anyway, let's get ahead with the drawing, and I'm going to start by putting a line roughly, I'd say roughly about a quarter of the way through the scene. Okay, so have a look. So a quarter of the way through the scene. Now this is, if you divide the paper into half, just use your finger and be like, okay, that's about half, and then divide that again by another half, you get a quarter. Okay, hold the pencil down the back end. This isn't going to take too long. I reckon we can probably do the sketch in, who knows, 10 minutes. I don't want to spend too long on the drawing itself. Okay, so let's get in this building to the left first. Now, this is the first building, and I think we can be easy by just drawing a line directly down like that. Just this edge of that building. You can see here in the center, there's like a kind of, what's this, like a balcony there, right? Sticks out like this. There is a section of the balcony that just comes out like that. Simplify. Okay, really just try to simplify what's happening. And you've got the railing here, kind of like that. Very, very simple sketch there for the balcony. And you've got a window here underneath, okay, just a square. And when I'm drawing, I always look at the shapes and say to myself, is that a rectangle? Is that a square? And rather than look at it as a building, the moment you start looking at it as a like an abstract concept, it becomes a little bit difficult for us to break it down into shapes. So if you look at it, it takes time to train yourself to do this, but look at the shapes within the actual building itself. Okay, there's another one. This is just a square. Just a square, and then on top of that, you've got yourself, it kind of breaks up into 3 little sections like that. So there we have it, a bit of that building. I mean, it's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. I think this building, a lot of it's just going to be in shadow, so I want that to at least be detailed enough, because I think I might get in a window or something like that. So, all right, let's have a look. We've also got all these buildings here in the back, and you can see this. Let's have a look. There's kind of like a chimney there, goes up. It's like a, side part of the chimney like that. But before I do that, actually, I'll probably just put in the actual outlines of the buildings themselves. Okay, simplify this down. This is some kind of tower, and if you're watching at home, maybe you're watching along later as well, if you know where this is, let me know, because I actually can't remember where I got this reference photo from. I've got so many of these reference photos, and I download them, and I barely paint any of them. In fact, I spend so much time looking for these photos, and then at the end, I don't paint them because I think that, not the type of scene that I want to paint, or I just hoard them away and never look at them again. But this is one of those scenes that I thought to myself, a bit too tricky, didn't quite feel like painting it at the time, so I just keep it there. But I pulled it out for today and thought, why not give it a crack? Okay, so that's the top. And again, this is like think about it, it's just a rectangle of sorts, okay? Just a rectangle of sorts, drawing these little bits and pieces in there. It's so complicated. It's really so complicated. And the only thing you can do is look at that shape, look at the shapes within the building, and try to scribble them in, okay? We get a nice loose representation of what's happening. And remember, this is like a blueprint, a blueprint of the final scene. This is going to help you when you start going in with your watercolors to know exactly where to put the building, so you don't have to worry about that later. Okay, let's actually bring this down further. This is a tricky one. There's like 2 floors. There's that one, then there's like the bottom one here. In fact, I've kind of drawn this one a little bit higher than I need to, but it doesn't matter. Okay, like that. A bit of this bottom one. I'm trying to draw this in as quick as possible as well. I don't want to spend too much time fiddling around with this, and the main thing I want to get in here is just that amazing quality of light, that I see on the top of this tower here, like that. I'm gonna make that little bit of a mess on that building with the pencil, and I normally don't like to erase stuff as well, especially when you're sketching. I just try to leave most of it in. Okay, so bringing this all the way down, and let me have a look. There's all these archways. Look at these kind of, it's like another balcony here on this second story, and there's intricate kind of details on the side of this building, and you know, lots of stuff going on, so much stuff. But yeah, as you can see, I'm just trying to simplify this down. Okay, and later on, if we need to, we can add a little bit more detail and go from there. There is also a building here in the background. Let's just put that in. There's a triangular shape for that other building there, coming down like that. There's this another triangle back there, like that, coming down. Just kind of like a taller building out the back, like this. What have we got there? So we've got another building like that, and maybe another one off on the back. Who, you know, it doesn't matter. It's no big deal. Okay, so we've got some of these buildings in here. Let's I might just try to tidy this one up a touch. Just tidy up a little bit more. I've got a bit of pencil in there, but you know, add in a window here or there. Okay. And let's put in a couple of these windows down below, like this, like doors actually, a couple of doors. What an interesting looking building, a lot going on. But of course we have all these cars and bits and pieces here, so I'm going to get in this car. It's the windscreen first, like this, like that, the side, the rooftop. You've got the front of the car that just comes forwards. You've got a light here, a light there. The bumper grills and all that kind of stuff there. Up here in the front, you've got a wheel here, large wheel at the front, and then you've got, it sort of just extends out the back like that, and then you've got another wheel running around there, and this is the back of the car, just comes out like that. So simple sort of car. And again, I'm having to decide to myself, well, you know, do I actually want the shadow, which way do I want the shadows coming in? Do I want them coming in from the back of the front of the car, for example, running across like that? That might actually be better, kind of running a little bit behind like that, the shadows. And then I can just get like a shadow coming in from that same direction. I'm just thinking maybe on a slight angle like that. That could be good. That could work. And you've got a car behind as well, and you're basically just repeating the same kind of structure. Let's put in the little windscreen like that here. The front of the car, it's already there anyway. I don't need to pencil in too much. The front, the sort of grills there, and this wheel, couple of wheels like that. Okay. Like that. The back of the car, just a basic car. It doesn't have to be anything too difficult. Now, I do like the fact that there's this figure here just kind of walking around. I'll put a figure walking there and really think to myself whether I want to put another one here. Yeah, I think another one here could be good, just walking into the scene like that. Yeah, figure walking to the scene. There's actually a bunch of other cars as well here in the back. Let's just get in a bit of this other car, or an indication of that car anyway, and you've got yourself also one of these larger vans out the back as well. Just a large sort of van, maybe a tiny shadow underneath like that as well would be good. I do see there's a bunch of you watching on Facebook. How are we all doing today? We've got Myrtle Chahal. Happy New Year from Melbourne. I'm so looking forward to this because I've always have difficulty with light and shadows. Audio and video is great from my side. Okay, fantastic. Good to hear. There's another, I think 15, 20 people on the stream. If you're watching, say hello down below in the chats. Let me know what you are up to, whereabouts you're from, and yeah, like if you have questions, if I'm not explaining something in enough detail or it's confusing to you, just let me know. Just let me know down in the chats so then I can address some of that stuff while I'm live. Okay. Now this building, I'm not so happy with how I've drawn that building, but you know what? Doesn't matter, guys. It's just a sketch. It's just a sketch. It looks close enough to what I want to portray in here. We've been streaming for about 17 minutes, and if you don't want to be doing a drawing. At the end of the day, we're doing a painting, and we can really get bogged down with all the details and forget that essentially we want to get in this feeling of light and this beautiful warmth running through this scene. But you might want to get in something different. You might have an idea of getting in a more detailed representation. Kind of looks like this going up a bit of a slope. Doesn't matter. I'll leave it like that. I'll put in another figure here as well, just behind. Another figure just walking closer. There's one kind of walking across here. Why not put another couple figures here just walking and in the background like that as well. A lot of times if you kind of just if you change the reference around and make it, just add in a few figures here and there, you can really add some interest and make it your own. But I have the habit of adding too much on sometimes, which can detract from the magic of the scene. So yeah, kind of be sparing. Don't go overboard with all these figures. But look at that. It's a real simple drawing. I mean, anyone could do something like this. We're going to get most of the detail in, hopefully, in the watercolors. So yeah, let me know how you're going with your sketch. And we've got a few people from, we've got Jar Austria. Good afternoon. Yeah, is it Jar Austria? Yeah, Austria. That means yes. But I'm guessing you're from Austria. We've got Marvel Rose from Houston, Texas. What time is it? Jan and Marvel, what time is it over there in Texas? Must be morning. I don't know. Is it morning for you guys at the moment? We've got Yihan from Philippines. Welcome, Yi. And we've got Nadia from Bangladesh. Welcome, Nadia. And glad to have you all here. It's great motivation when you paint along, draw and paint along together. Even for me, it's good fun, And don't worry about the outcome. One thing I want you all to focus on is just getting that brush onto the paper, giving it a shot. Okay, whether it works out or not, it doesn't matter. If you've given it a go and you've tried out some of these techniques, consider yourself you've done it successfully. Okay, if you end up with something that looks good at the end, that's a bonus. All right, so let's get on this light. Now, the first step, there's really 3 steps that I follow in painting. Every single painting, I do the same thing. Paint the light. I paint all the darks, so that includes the shadows and maybe some of the figures, the really dark areas like the tires and the legs of the figures. I paint that in as well. And then right at the end, when everything's dried, I'll go over it again with just a fine-tooth comb, a little brush to add in some small details to bring it all together. Those 3 steps, it's all you need. The first step is so important when you're painting light. And the reason why is because this is going to last. This first wash is going to show through all the way to the end. If you do it correctly, it will show through, and that's what's going to bring out that beautiful pop of light. Okay, so you don't want to go too dark at all. You really want to mix up. I've got my palette here just to show you how I mix my paints. Lots of water here. Check that out. It's tons of water. The yellow in this scene is it's very bright, but it isn't super vibrant. I'd say it's kind of like a yellow ochre color, maybe with a touch of Hansa yellow. I'm going to put in a bit of Hansa yellow. I do have this other yellow as well called, it's not a yellow, it's a quinacridone gold, tiny bit of quinacridone gold. You see how little, check out how little paint I've got in there. There's nothing in there. It's just water basically. So let's test it, okay, over the top. You might think to yourself, no, that's too, you know, it's too weak. So you can always alter this around, but I do want this to be really light, really vibrant for the focal point of the scene. This, as you can see, where there's contrast between light and dark, the eye will gravitate towards that area. That's a little trick in terms of how you get that beautiful light to show through, okay? So in the second wash, I'll show you some tricks in getting in those darker areas in the sky, yeah, around the buildings as well, to make it a lot more sharper and make that light pop out. It's 10:55. Okay, that's all right. I reckon we should be able to finish both of these off in another hour. I'm just hoping. I'm being optimistic here. I reckon we'll be able to finish these both off in an hour. Okay, because I'm going to paint pretty quick here. Okay, more yellow on this side, okay, of the buildings, the left buildings there. And I have the habit of really putting too much vibrancy into my paintings. I've been actively trying to dull things down a little bit. As I put too much, when you put too much color in, sometimes things can just look a bit kind of over the top, a bit too gaudy, and it's more realistic, real to life if you've got some of this other stuff in it, you know, bits of gray and stuff. Here I'm going in with a bit of burnt sienna, tiny bit of burnt sienna for this rooftop, yeah. And again, it's just a very light wash, a tiny little wash. It's mostly just water, guys. It's just 10% paint, 5 to 10% paint max. Down below, I'm going through it again with this light wash of yellow. It should look, if you've done it right, this yellow should look so weak, and it almost makes you feel uncomfortable. You look at it and you think to yourself, there's too much water in there. Yeah, it should look like that, so that it looks out of place, because there's not any darks here, and so your mind kind of just fools you and thinks it needs to be darker, you know. But you have to resist that urge and just continue on with the plan. Continue on with the plan and get that light wash in. Okay, just yellow. Okay, and in the ground as well, I thought, let's put in a bit of that yellow. I do have some of this grayish color, and sometimes a bit of that gray just mixed in with the yellow at times is good. I can just drop that in and create a bit of this soft color in there. Okay, now this is all just a lot of this yellowish gray color in the ground, like that. Okay, let's just get that in. So just one big wash like that. Yeah. Okay, so here comes the tricky part. We want to get in some darker colors. Okay, so essentially we've got in all of our lighter colors here. Yeah. And what I'm doing here, I'm just putting in a few little stray marks here and there. But what I want to do is, we're looking at the paper and we're seeing, okay, there are some areas of the paper that are still wet. I mean, a lot of the paper is still wet. This is a great opportunity now to start getting in some of them soft shadows. And if you look at the building in the reference photo, it's actually, the shadows on the building are kind of sharper, especially in this building there. But I want to try something different. So I've re-wet that paper a little bit. And guys, if it started dried and you've re-wet that paper, just remember, don't re-wet it too much. Re-wet it just to the point where there's a nice little sheen of color on the surface of the paper. You see, when I turn the paper on an angle, you can see there's a little bit of a reflection on the paper. Yeah, so you want that, but you don't want the water just start pooling in places and create an absolute mess. In fact, I just leave it for a little while. Yeah, and then sort of go back into it. And I think what we can actually do is while this is doing its thing, I'll give this this bottom bit a little bit of a spray. But the top part, I think, what would be good is if I actually start getting in some of the sky. Okay, a little bit of the sky. And I'll start off with a little. I've still got two brushes here. I haven't gotten to mention the brushes I'm using. I have myself a little flat brush and a little mop brush. Mop brushes are great, as you can see. They get in a lot of paint without, but you're still able to cut around things. So they hold tons of paint. All right. Now I'm going to mix myself up some cerulean blue on the side, and I actually think I'll drop in a bit of this cobalt teal as well. I've been quite obsessed with that color lately. To me, it looks kind of similar to cerulean blue. Okay, but we're going to go into the sky, and you might not think this is a dark, but it is actually dark. If we look at the value, okay, of this blue compared to the yellow, it's darker than the yellow, significantly darker. So what we can do is I can just go around, as you can see, just cut around these buildings. All right, just picking up, and I'd say the mixture is about 50% water, 50% water, and 50% paint. Okay, so I'm really emphasizing the sky here. And notice there's also some clouds in there. It's up to you whether you want to drop in any of those clouds or not. I mean, I can just do something like this. Okay, let's pick up a bit of gray or something. Drop in a bit of something like that. Something here. A bit here maybe. Okay, just to, I don't know, give it a bit of variation, yeah? And let's go in, okay, around the top. And you notice also maybe you might get a bit of mixing into the buildings. Don't worry, just continue on. Most of this should already be dried. Oops, that definitely wasn't dried. And if you've got a tissue, if you've got a bit of tissue as well, what you can do is pick up that tissue and kind of dab away at areas like this if you've gone a bit into the buildings, okay? I'm kind of not rushing, but I'm painting a little bit quicker than usual, so you do get stuff like this happening, okay? But this top part, I'm pretty sure this top part is dried of this little tower. Okay, so going around, I'm leaving some of that grey as well in there. Why not? Still got some of this blue, just cut around. Let that mix into this grey that you put there, put in there before as well. Okay, check that out. It's just mixing in nicely, because the paper is still wet, allowing you to do this sort of stuff. Okay, continue on. Let's just, again, cut around this part of the building like that. There. And as you can see, the light is already showing through in that building, yeah? It's already showing through. Okay, it's very kind of a vibrant blue sort of sky. It's almost exaggerated, actually. I think next time I do it, I probably would go with like a less exaggerated blue. I think I've overdone it a bit. Now I'm going to pick up a bit of purple, and this is what you can do. You can drop in a touch of purple or a bit of neutral tint into the sky in areas and just create like a cloud or something. Okay, a bit of inconsistency up there. You don't have to do this, but it creates a bit of interest. Okay, just thought I'd drop a bit in there, see what happens. All this area on the buildings should be dry, or like starting to dry off now. I've got a bit of pooling here, a bit of water just pooling in this area. Okay, you got two options. You can wait until later and paint the shadows on while it's darker, or we can actually just go straight into the buildings and get a soft shadow. And that's really what I want to do. I want to try this out because I haven't tried this out too many times on my other paintings, and I want to give this a crack. Now, a nice purple. I'm going to mix up a bit of purple here. All right, you can mix up your own purple. I've got a pre-mix. If you've got a bit of blue and red, just mix that together. You'll be absolutely fine. And a bit of this cobalt turquoise in there as well. But mainly purple, neutral tint. Okay, and I do have a bit of brown here as well on the side. When you mix brown and blue together, you get a nice kind of neutral grayish color. Okay, so I have these different sorts of grays and purples and stuff going on in here. The idea is when we put that paint in, it's going to look more varied. It's going to look more interesting. Okay, here's some, look at that. I'm dropping this straight into the building. And remember, the paint on my brush, it's pretty thick. I'd say it's about 60, 70% paint. Okay, and because the paper is still wet, look what happens. It just mixes in seamlessly. Okay, don't need to do much at all. Let's have a look at the side of this building. I'm kind of worried about this. Okay, that's fine. It is still wet, dry. It's completely dried off, so I can actually get in up the top here a bit of detail, sharper shadow up the top there, as it comes down. Okay, but at the base you've got all this beautiful kind of abstract shadow down the base. Yeah, and remember to leave little areas of yellow. And it's difficult as well because the paint at this stage just spreads and moves around all over the place, that it's easy to just forget and end up with a whole lot of mess running in here. But you know, look, you can also cut around. See there, I'm just cutting around some of the windows, all this kind of stuff here. Okay, and underneath it kind of pops out this little balcony like that there. Okay, check that out. We're doing this all in one big wash, all the shadows. Okay. And the longer you spend doing this, if you actually sit down and give yourself more than 30 minutes, I'm trying to do this pretty quick, you can really get in a nice amount of detail through this whole thing. Okay. But I'm giving myself a time frame to not really spend a lot of resources on this, so that we can really expedite this effect. Okay, look at that nice shadow there in the background. I want to get some more darkness down in the base. It's not dark enough down here in the base, so look at that, just drop in a bit more darkness. And guys, I'm using hot press paper, which is very difficult actually to get this effect in. Where if you're a beginner, I always recommend beginners to start with cold press paper. Cold press paper basically is textured paper, and it makes it much easier to get in these wet and wet effects. Okay, see, this part is already dried, and that's another thing. When you're using hot press paper, it dries very quickly, so you time is basically of the essence. You just got to be on the ball there and be quite confident with your brush strokes. Okay, so I kind of like how that's turned out, this sharpness of this of the building, some of the shadows here, but then at the same time in the background you've got, you know, some darkness there on the buildings. Another thing I've forgotten to put in is a bit of darkness on this. See here, just a bit of this rooftop there. You've got some tiny little darker shadows there. Look, just how can I put that in just a few brush strokes? Something like that. Something like that. Like that. You know, you've got details in the buildings as well. You can just, again, just start to paint in these little details with that same sort of paint. You've got these, oh, I've got that window. I did stuff that window up a little bit. That doesn't matter. Let's just continue on. There's one window. There's another one. You know, these are sort of sharper windows. And normally I would actually wait till the end, but this is already dried, so we're quite safe to actually give this a go. Just put in a few of these brush strokes for windows, and look at it. It's not anything too detailed at all. It's really basic, yeah? And you know, that light source coming from the left, top left, and so I'm going to modify this down the base as well. We're going to need to modify down the base. There's windows and all this darkness down here. We're going to wait for that later. Don't touch any of that because we want to let this beautiful wash dry off and do its thing first without any interference. I've got a bit of pooling here. You know, this happens like when you're using hot press paper. It just happens. You get a bit of color that just pools in weird areas. So another challenge that's why I sort of suggest everyone, if you're a beginner, just use cold press paper. Couple of these little windows there as well. Look at how, you know, I'm just trying to be quite spontaneous with the brush strokes and be quick with them as well. Imply what's there, but not spend a whole lot of time on it. Okay, if I'm going to draw a line, I draw that line, I paint that line in quickly, and I move on. Nothing, I don't linger in there and try to fix everything up and make it look exact. It's not going to do you any good when you're trying to paint loosely, okay, and you fiddle around in areas just too much, because it's going to make the scene appear too overworked, okay? You know, even here, there's some, I don't know, parts of that building, and any architectural details that we can emphasize. Yeah, this little, you know, this balcony here, I could emphasize a bit of that architectural effect like that. It's not much, just something like that. Just anything I can put in up the top while it's already dry. Okay, so this is the second step. We're putting in all the dark colors, yeah, over the top. What else do we have down there? I mean, there's actually, I don't know if you see that, but there's a bit of green here. There's like someone just growing some plants out the side of the building, on the side of that building. A little bit of green there. That looks nice. Something different. Because we've got all this blue and whatever here, so let's put in a little bit of that green. Just a bit of dark green there on the side. It's not anything too serious. And I'm going to move further down. Let's have a look now around on the ground. Again, this is the tricky sort of thing, because I want to get in a soft shadow, maybe partly soft shadow and then part of it sharper. Okay, so let's spray part of the ground, like maybe here. I'm just going to spray part of that. Okay. There we got it. So it's just a bit of wetness here in the foreground. Let that dry off for a little bit. And I'm just going to check the chats. How's everyone going? Give you a little second to catch up before I continue. We've got Asia Joy from Malaysia. How you going? Asia, 1 p.m. in Malaysia now. Great. That's an awesome time. Hope you've had your lunch as well. Yeah, it's 4 p.m. here in Melbourne, but the sun sets around 9. But today is just one of those awful days. You know, we often get, you know, as you hear in Melbourne, 4 seasons in one day. We often get a day of great weather, sunshine. It's fantastic, and then all of a sudden it's just horrible. And I'm from Perth originally, and I'm just used to weather that's more consistent. So yeah, I've gotten used to it over time. I think Melbourne's got its own sort of allure. And anyway, I'm like bumbling on again, guys. So yeah, let me know how you're going. Let me know in the chats how you're doing, and if you have any questions as well. We've got about 21 people watching, mainly on Facebook, couple on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, drop a message as well. Yeah, if you got questions, just let me know. So this bit of the foreground has pretty much like dried off now. Well, not dried off, but we've got a bit of something going on here. This is still damp, but I'm going to put in some darkness here in the ground, and I'll actually make it more gray. So with that, I'll put in more brown in here, maybe a bit more gray. Let's try this. Yeah, that's good. So a little bit of this grayish color, and see how it goes. You know, we've got a bit of this coming in like that. On top of the car maybe as well. On the side. But the car would be interesting, because I need to get in. Maybe a bit of light on the front of the car like this. A little bit of light. Okay, because it is pretty dark in this whole scene, but we still need to imply that light source. Okay. And then we're going to put in a bit of darkness on that right-hand side of the car, maybe at the back end like that. Join it on nicely. I'm going to leave the windscreen with some light on it like this. Okay, bring that down, the wheel. And of course, underneath the car is where I want to get in this, it's like kind of shadow, okay, like this. It's changing this around a bit. I'm making it more, a little bit more dark than the reference photo, like that. Let's see, where do we want to put that shadow? That's the million-dollar question. Something like that, maybe. Just thinking like that. Car behind there, and again like that. And I'm letting some of this shadow in the foreground mix through. Okay, see that? So we've got soft shadows, we've got sharp shadows, and intermixed with all that, we've also got light. So here, let's put in a bit there, you know, there's some figures, another bit of shadow running like that, perhaps, you know. One thing I didn't like about the reference was that there's just not enough, I think there's just not enough contrast, but it's such a beautiful photo. But sometimes when you're painting, you just need to add in that little bit more, tiny bit more oomph to it, and just, you know, a little bit more. So that's a leg, another leg. I'm using a brush that's too big. I'm going to swap over to that mop brush again, something like this. And the way I'm doing these legs is just generally just like one brush stroke down like that, and the other one like that. I've used a few more than one, but connect that onto the ground like this, and with the figures, there's a shadow as well running in that same direction. Keep the shadows running in that same direction. You've got to remember that. Okay, there's a car here as well in the back. Again, there's a shadow there. There's something like that. All right. Not only that, you've got a bit of shadow on the front of this car, but, you know, to indicate that the light's potentially coming in. I've left a bit of light on top of the car, on the windscreen there. Yeah, just to emphasize that light. Sometimes you really need to do that. All right, there's the legs of these figures here. And let's do this one here. It looks like we've got a few people in the chats now. It's starting to grow a bit more, and I'm guessing it's because some of you are either waking up or I have woken you up. Hopefully it's the former. Okay, it's, you know, like that. And notice how when I paint lines as well, legs and stuff like that, I will paint them. I kind of leave a bit of a gap in between lines. And if you do that, you draw, when you paint broken lines, what happens is that you get some this indication of light. Right? It's almost as if there's a bit of light that's caught onto the back of this person's pants or whatever. And the temptation when you first start painting is to just you just paint everything in. You know, you paint all the colors in. You don't leave any of that previous wash in, and that's a mistake because, again, this workshop is about light, and we have to remember we're leaving in light. You can't paint light in really in watercolors. Right till the end, you can do a little bit of lifting off. Perhaps you can do a bit of you can use a bit of gouache. See what I'm doing here? I'm just lifting off a bit of this paint, and this is like I said, this paper is this is hot press paper, which is very difficult, notoriously difficult to get in smooth transitions because there's no texture on the paper, so the paint puddles in air. It's annoying as anything, but it dries faster. You have sharper sort of effects. I like it. I think it looks fantastic if you can manage to control it. Okay, but you know, that's just a bit of the top of that build, that what you call it, that yeah, what am I trying to say? This truck or whatever. Good. I'm really tempted to thinking to myself whether I should put in some more shadows on these back buildings, and you know, I could do that. You know, I really could do that, but at the same time, I think it would stuff this wash up. It would just make it look a bit. It would ruin this beautiful wash. But what I can potentially do is, you know, add in a little bit just for that building here, because it's still drying, and maybe a little bit And this could be a mistake. This could be a big mistake, but just a little bit like that. It might create some nice sort of effect on that building. Okay, like that. And also allow me to cut around this truck or whatever there and some of these figures there. So you've got to be flexible. You really got to think, you really got to take a risk at times because, a lot of these little experiments that I do, most of them don't work out. I don't show anyone those paintings, but a lot of my paintings look absolutely terrible. If you look through my sketchbook, I'd be embarrassed to show a lot of them because they're just times where I've thought, let me just give that a shot. Let me give that technique a go and see what happens. And then I end up trying it and it absolutely it looks terrible. So, but those are the experiments that actually, when they do work out, you end up with something quite special. And you think, maybe I'm going to, I could try that again next time and that would work. So you have to take risks. And remember, it's just, we're dealing with paper and we're dealing with, what am I trying to say? Yeah, we're dealing with paper and paint. So that's the worst that can happen is that you stuff it up. Okay. But, yeah, like going back into this area is very risky because, like I said, there's a chance you can just completely ruin that previous wash. And I love how that wash looks at the moment. See, look at those soft sort of shadows on the building. I want to preserve those shadows. Okay. But at the same time, I want to get that car in a bit more. This building in the foreground as well, there's just something to be desired with the balcony area and, little details, things like that. Okay. So I can just drop that in at the moment while the paint is still sort of damp so that it looks more natural. Okay. But you notice the building has all these lines and interesting little marks here and there. I want to do those later. I want to do those later. Okay. Another thing I've noticed as well is that this shadow on the back of this building is actually darker. Like it separates that back building from the front building, if you see. Just a little bit of like something there. So if I just drop in a bit of darker paint in there, I'm thinking that might do the trick. That might just be enough to separate that building in the foreground with the background one. But again, it is risky and I'm going over the top of this previous wash. So it's kind of stuffing it up a little bit, but it doesn't matter. We're gonna persist anyway. Give this a try. And notice when I also spray a bit of this water on the page, especially if the paper is still wet, you get this kind of weird deckled effect, like micro, what do you call it? Micro blooms. And it looks quite interesting. I like the look of it. So in the people, what time is it? I've been yapping on 50 minutes. But you should have something that resembles that. And look at all the shadows in that second step. We've got them all in one big shape, joint them all together. This person here, I'm thinking, let's put in a bit of color. I got some blue. Let's put in some blue here. And, while the paint is still wet, let it all mix together. I've got a bit of red. Let's put in a bit of red and a bit of, I don't know what this is, brown or something like that for this one. All right. Just a little bit of light color for that shirt or whatever. There's another person here to the left. Let's put in a bit of like this yellowish color, like an off-white color like that. There's a person there. There's even a person there standing in the dark, and there's probably not going to be much light in that person. Just a little bit there. Another person there. I've saved a lot of these very vibrant colors, as you can see, for areas that I want to draw attention to. So firstly, you're going to get attention to this sort of building. I'm actually thinking to myself, oh, maybe I want to fix this section. I was thinking I can worry to stuff it up, but yeah, that looks probably a bit better like that. Yeah, I want a bit less light. That good. You know, you can even just go into the car and start to put in some little details of the car and the windows and stuff here as well, like that. Simple little details. How can I portray that in the most simple way? Okay, a few brush strokes should do the trick. A few little brush strokes should really do the trick there. You know, even this grille on the front of the car, something like that. There's a mirror there, there's a mirror there. Um, a lot of this stuff is in shadow, so we're not going to get much light in there at all. Okay, join that car onto the background. Let the water kind of run down into the back end there. Okay. Windscreen, it's kind of bugging me a little bit. Maybe a touch of blue in there, like this. Little touch of like desaturated blue in that windscreen because it's not exactly white. That one in the background is though. It's got a very sharp, high contrast there. Okay. All right. So we are nearly there. I reckon what I'll do is dry it off. We'll put in some final details and we'll call it done. But let me give it a dry off, and I'm going to show you this final step that's really going to make make everything sort of jump out. And we go see what some of your questions and see what you guys have to say so far. So yeah, if you have any questions, pop them in there, pop them in the chats, and I will get answer some of them in just a moment. I've realized here I forgot to put in a shadow for this figure there. It doesn't matter, something like that. That's enough. So Monica's asking, watching now, hope to paint later. Is there a larger reference photo? Yeah, so I'll upload the reference, a larger version of the reference photo after. Check the video description and I'll put it there on YouTube. But at the moment, it's just this one that we have here up on the screen. And on Facebook, having a look what's happening here. We've got Tina Johansson, 7:16 a.m. in Finland. Just woke up and still in bed and watching your work. Awesome, Tina. Don't think I've had you here in the chats before. Must be winter for you guys, hey? But makes sense to be indoors if it is. Here it gets like -40 or something like that over there. So hope you're enjoying the show. Frank Goothy, hi Darren. 7:15 here. Okay, just woke up. Me and my coffee will accompany you now. Yeah, that's pretty early, but good to see you here, Frank. Myrtle says, at first I was so unsure and anxious about the bright blue sky, and then when you put the dark grey in the middle of the building, I panicked. But then as it dries, I'm amazed that it now starting to make sense. The yellow pops out. Yep, definitely. You put in that, you know, there's just this kind of panic, because it doesn't make sense in your head. It's really weird. It's almost, until it's there, you don't believe it yourself. But you have to trust in that process, like you said. So be brave. I mean, a lot of beginners really get afraid when putting in those darks, but without those darks, you're not going to be able to get that pop of light that shows through like this on the ground and whatever. It's essential, absolutely essential. Rebecca, good to see you again, Rebecca. What's this? Is like the third or fourth day in a row now, so good to see you again. 925 United Arab Emirates. And we've got Schnolen. Good to see you, Schnolen. It's been a while. I haven't seen you for a bit. I think usually when I stream, it's it must be pretty early or too late for you, because I know you're just about getting to bed. So good to have you here today. Serena van der Watt here as well. Good to see Serena watching Brisbane tennis final on TV while watching you paint. Multitasking. I can't do that. I guess hope you put in the tennis on mute. But good to see you here, Serena, and thank you for your support. And guys, if you are enjoying this live workshop, if you're finding it helpful, do me one really big favor and click the like button on the video and share it with a friend or share it with a watercolor group that you're part of. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me out a great deal in just getting my workshops out to more people. It's one of the biggest struggles I have whenever I do these workshops is marketing the things. It drives me mad just posting and emailing out things like that. So, any little bit of help that I can get with that and just sharing out that video, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Schnolen says it's almost 11. Awesome. So yeah, it's still getting pretty late. My sleep schedule is a bit stuffed up. I'm trying to sleep a bit earlier. These days I'm sleeping like at 2 a.m., which is not so healthy apparently. So I'm hoping to actually, if I can run these sessions earlier in the morning, which would be at a reasonable time for most of you guys, like 6 p.m. or might be earlier morning as well. That's preferable, but yeah. Work in progress. So how long have I been streaming now? Probably an hour, and let's finish this one off. Okay, we can do this one pretty quickly, I'd say. Let's go ahead and pick up a smaller brush. Now I'm going to use a flat brush, and I always use this same flat brush. You guys must be getting sick of me using this one, and I probably need to buy another one because it's getting a bit wonky now. But I just say to myself, it contributes to that loose effect. Though I do need to get a new brush, a bunch of new brushes. Just haven't been bothered to go out and buy them. Let's go ahead and pick up a bit of this dark color. Look at this mix of color. Okay, the great thing about these vertical ones is I can fit the whole palette in there as you see me mixing things up, which is very, very crucial. Now this is just basically a bit of black and a bit of brown mixed together, maybe a bit of purple in there as well. And it's like 10%, 20% water. Most of it is just paint. And we are trying to get in the darkest of darks in here, yeah? And the idea of this is to bring out the final shadows and bits and pieces of this scene that we haven't already put in there. So one of the big things I want to do as well is just like here in this building, you can see there are some horizontal lines, these little horizontal lines running across the building. They're driving me. I just want to get them in. So it's just the same brush, yeah, just for the sake of consistency and because I'm being lazy as well. But look at that, just get in a few of these horizontal brush strokes like that for these buildings. Okay, because there are just these tiny little bits and pieces that we can imply through here. The edges of the windows as well, like that, little window sills. Okay, this is the finishing touches of the painting. And one mistake I see beginners focus on too much is that you're focusing on the finishing touches at the start of the painting. You're doing all this detailing, but you're doing it right at the beginning when you should be focusing on the big picture, on the light, the shadows, joining everything together, get this beautiful wash on the buildings. That's something I think is so important, to make sure you're utilizing this three-step process in the right order. Okay, because if you do it in the wrong order, then it's going to end up looking, especially if you detail too much, it's going to look overworked. Okay, if you're looking to get a sort of this kind of got looser style that I paint in and have that efficiency in painting, and you'd be able to paint pretty quickly like I do, you have to go through that 3-step process. But I do see a lot of people get stuck on the first step and just, on the last step, or they've inverted and done that first. So I would rather get a nice loose painting than something that is overworked and stressing me out because I've spent all day, hours trying to get in these details. There's the head of this figure. Look, I'm just trying to get in this figure behind the car. I hope this will help to bring out the car as well. See, like that. We've also got, see here behind the car, there's actually a bit of darkness or something. I don't know what that is, but I'm making use of some of this darkness and some of these bits and pieces on the background buildings. Okay, and it's just a bit of, look at just the line running behind there. There's the window here, and I'm not, I'm trying to do this all in one brushstroke. Yeah, just that window. There's this window here like that. I don't even know. I'm not even paying too much attention to the shape of it. But you'll notice that just by adding a bit of color and stuff behind the car, especially with the figures and things, you're doing something called negative painting. So you are basically creating the shape of an object through cutting around that object in the background. Can you see that? The roof of that car is now a lot more visible. The roof of that car is a lot more visible, but I think I've probably overdone it. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to run with it. The main thing is that I don't want to eliminate this beautiful kind of wash on that building. So if I can do this, if I can just be more efficient with these brush strokes, that's my aim. Look at that, just a bit of this balcony or whatever that is there. Bit of that balcony there. Some of this stuff probably needs to be darkened a touch. Why not just add in a little bit extra contrast up the top? This one as well. There, you've also got, some windows and stuff on the right-hand side of the building, like this. We can just put in a bit of that there. Here as well. These tiny little details, but trust me, they will make everything, they'll make your scene stick out more and make it look a bit more realistic with these bits and pieces in there. But you do have to be careful, very sparingly add in this darker color. Too much and you're gonna regret it. So what do we have here? Again, this other window there. I'm just picking out some pieces, bits and pieces that I can emphasize in there on top of all that the previous wash and all that previous detail in the roof. Okay, just some extra darkness to make that light pop, because we've got all this light in there. A little bit of darkness is going to help. There we've got this kind of these doorways and things. Okay, I don't want to spend all day doing this. Maybe just a couple of little downward brush strokes like that. Yeah, a little bit of downward brush strokes. There's these little circular bits there. Look, I'm not fussed at this. Okay, if you try to imply things, you'll find that you end up making it look more like the actual shape than if you really labor away at it too much. Okay, so there is the bottom door. There's another door here, and I'm making these doors a little bit darker. Okay, a little bit darker than the scene. Why am I doing that? Well, again, I want to emphasize the light on the cars. I want to emphasize the surrounding light and areas. Okay, and this is one little way to do it. Okay, one little way to do it. What have we got in the back here? I mean, we've got this there's like another building here, like that, and I'm trying to make these lines and things a little bit more subdued as well. There's like a tree or something here, bit of green. I'm picking up another brush because I don't want to mix that green into all this color, because we know we've got this kind of tree here or something. See, just like a bit of green there, and we've got a bit of green there. Look, I'm just dunking that brush there. Maybe put a bit of blue into it as well, so that it's like not too out there. And what do we got? You know, this, I've actually not painted this building in 100% correctly, but it's no big deal. You know, I've put in too much space on that side. Oh no, that's all right actually. That's actually the left side of that building. I didn't see that. Yeah, so that's where the actual other side of this building begins here. And I might put in some windows there, couple of quick windows here. And look at these, the dark bits, again, they bring out the light on the windows. Just little bits of color, touches of color, as you can see here. Okay, we're almost done. I mean, we're almost finished, but, you know, again, it's just picking out some little bits of darkness and contrast that might help you to bring out that light more. But see how we've left the yellow in. We've left that beautiful mid-value shadow on the car. You know, what else do we have? I mean, it's really we're almost done. All right, hello guys. There was a bit of an issue with my computer that just restarted on me, but it's restarted at a pretty good point anyway, because I'm almost finished with this one, and I actually had intended to do another painting, and I reckon I'll give that a go. But before I do that, I'll finish quickly off on this one, and we'll actually start putting in a little bit of gouache for the highlights. And I think this is going to bring everything together quite nicely. So yeah, let me know how the stream's going, if you can hear me okay, because I pretty much going to get started. It looks like everything's fine, but I've had to restart from scratch. But yeah, at least it sort of ended halfway through the stream when I've almost done this scene anyway. And I'm gonna go and pick up that flat brush again. I've got a bit of gouache, a little bit of white gouache here, and I'm just gonna pick that up with this little brush. Okay, and essentially I'm going to put in some final highlights. So there's a bit of that highlight for this figure here, for this car on the side, and apart from leaving out all that light in the previous wash, well, this allows us to also get in and recover some of that previous light that we might have not put in or just eliminated accidentally before. But I want to be very, very sparing with this. I've got to do it in a way that it doesn't look too obvious. That's a person here as well. A bit of gouache on the left side of that person. You can even put it into the windows and bits of the building as well. But yeah, really quite sparing. I find that's the best way to go about it. Otherwise, it looks too kind of stuck on. Not you can eliminate that watercolor on that previous wash, so you don't want too much of that. Here, these figures that are just standing over in the foreground and in the midground, bit of color there on the left side, like that. You know, there's a figure here perhaps. Okay, that one I'm not too happy with, so I'm going to soften that down a touch there. Soften that down a touch so that there's just keep picking up too much water. Just like that. Just soften off that gouache a little bit, because I think I've overdone it. Okay, that's better. And just one moment. Turn on the air conditioner. It's a little bit hot in here. And I think we are almost there. I got to keep reminding myself not to overdo it. So easy. Do see that there's still a bunch of you in the chats on Facebook. You might have found the stream again. Let me know how you're going, and if you have any other questions while I kind of start preparing for the next one. Just double checking. Okay. Righto. Just bear with me a moment. Bring all these settings back to normal. Remember, I'm multitasking on a few things as well. That yeah, it did glitch out, Frank. But good thing you found it again. Yeah, I don't know. My computer just reset. I was going well for the first 4 days of this week, but yeah, don't know. It does that conks out sometimes, but no, the show must go on. A little bit of light on this wheel, perhaps. A little, just areas that you think could benefit from a touch of light or something contrast in here. Go ahead and have a play around with gouache. And gouache is basically, it is watercolor, but it's an opaque watercolor. I think they have some chalk mix in there. Right. But I think that's all right. I think we will leave this one. I want to get started on another painting. I found a scene of some sunflowers, and it actually looks like quite a tricky painting. Or it looks easy, but it might turn out a little bit trickier. But I want to try sketching that one, giving it a go and see what happens. But that's what it looks like anyway. The finished first painting here, and not bad for a very quick little sketch. I mean, it took me less than an hour to imply this scene, and put everything away. Now I have some other watercolor paper as well. This is some medium textured watercolor paper, so it's going to be interesting because you're going to be able to compare the hot press paper with medium press paper to see the difference of both these paintings when they turn out. Of course, this is going to be a completely different subject, but I'm going to go ahead and switch over that reference photo to my second photo, and we're going to paint some loose sunflowers. I chopped this scene down a little bit to make it a bit smaller. It was actually bigger, but I didn't want too much of that window in there. I wanted the emphasis on that flower. And this is another great reference picture when we want to practice getting light into a scene. So we want to make sure that we've got all these lovely sort of highlights there on the flowers. And then, of course, running down the stems. In the water, there's a lot of light in the water as well. It's tricky. I'm trying to figure this out by looking at it, but I'm going to give this a good go. We'll see how we handle this. You can see in the background there is darkness behind the glass, or this vase, this glass, whatever it is, and that creates the light. That makes that light pop out on the glass. even the background, if you look at the glass window, it's a little bit darker than the actual light on the flowers. So that's what's making the flowers really pop out. So I might emphasize that a bit as well. There's stuff in there. It looks like a car in the background or something like that. There's papers and nails and things on there. There's even a little shadow here as well. But let's go ahead and give this a crack, guys. So pencil, and I am going to start drawing in, I reckon, probably that brick wall to the left. Okay, just a downward line like this. Like, it's not perfect, something like that. Then when we get to the bottom, I'm just gonna draw this sort of edge of the window like this. Okay, this might change. This might change, but I'm leaving it like that so far. Okay, we've got this shelf near the window, ledge there that basically is basically where the vase is standing. Like, it's, where is it? It's like here. It's pretty, I think to myself, yeah, it's like a vase that comes up. How many bricks? 1, 2. Could make it a bit taller as well, like that. Just having a look at it. It's only like a cup, isn't it? It's like a big cup. There. Just a little bit of that bottom part of it like that, where it sits there. Okay. I'm not too preoccupied with the accuracies of it, but just something that looks like this. Something that looks like that. And a vessel that could potentially contain flowers. Okay. Not bad. Something like that. Okay, and what else do we have? We've got like another part, this ledge of the window going across there. There's like the actual window frame there as well. But what we want to do with these flowers is that we want to get a bunch of them. You've got this sunflower here. It's pointing towards the right. And you can see there's some of the petals that sort of come forwards. But most of them sort of, so you can see, they just stick out quite nicely like this. And not trying to get them in too accurately as well, because what we want to do afterwards is just use that. We're going to paint most of these flowers in a very loose manner, okay? So don't preoccupy yourself with the details of these flowers. It's just to give you, I suppose, an indication of them, of where to put that yellow paint afterwards, so you're not struggling to figure out where the flowers are going. There's a few more, like one there, one there. How can I just simplify this down so I can, get started with the painting? It's just a blueprint, okay? Little indication of that one there, okay? That looks all right. Okay, it might look pretty simple now, but hopefully I can redeem myself near the end of this. It stems coming down, as you can see, like that. And there's some just crossing over to that right-hand side like this. Underneath the vase. Okay, good. So we've got something going on here. And of course, this top part of the window there and there. Very simplified window. And this part kind of coming down like this. Actually, it's cutting across some of these flowers. These flowers actually go up more. I can put in a few more as well. Extend out some of them as well. Okay, but that's something. That's something. There is a bit of paper or whatever here, a bit of white paper. It's out of frame. Some objects. I'm not bothered too much by that. Okay, so let's give this a go, and I'm gonna pick up a little round brush or a little flat brush. Yeah, probably a flat brush might work better for this. And I'm going to get in that really vibrant yellow that I see on the sunflowers. That very vibrant yellow. Okay, so I've got a bit of Hansa yellow for this. That's absolutely perfect. I'm getting this in first. You want to get in this light of the sunflowers in first. And it's like a little bit of paint. It's only, I mean, it's only like what you would call it. It's only 5% paint. Mostly It's mostly just water running through here. Okay? And you think, and you got to just paint each petal in with one brush stroke. And I'm using that pencil drawing as a little quick reference, but I'm also trying to be somewhat accurate with the way that the petals are facing. You can see that some of the petals face to the side, some of the petals face downwards, and I think having a variation of them makes it look more realistic and three-dimensional. Some of them are just facing the viewer directly. You know, you got this one here that's kind of facing to the side, to the left-hand side, like that. So you see some of the petals are like curved in from that end facing that way. Right? Really note the direction of which way some of these petals are facing and do your best to imply some of that. Okay. And if I tend to, err on the side of putting in more of these petals rather than less at times because you can't really get in that yellow afterwards. Okay. You've got one chance to pop that color in there. And if you don't get it in, you can pretty much forget about that yellow afterwards. Okay, unless you use some white gouache mixed in with yellow, which I don't really recommend. I do that a little bit, but most of the time I just try to get it all in one go. Now the center of these flowers, I'm going to mix up a bit of gray and a bit of yellow, a bit of gray and a bit of yellow to get myself in a darker sort of center color for some of these flowers, like that. And look, this sort of section like that. Again, it's kind of this. It could be like a green, a bit of green as well, perhaps there. I'm trying to get this to blend in with the flowers, hopefully, so that it's, looks more natural, like that. Like that here. What else we got? We've got one sort of some leaves here, perhaps. And don't be afraid to leave in some white on the paper as well. It's no big deal. Okay, some leaves, some bits of green. I'm picking up some undersea green, just a light green, really. Mixing it in with a bit of yellow so that it becomes lighter. And I'm going and adding in some potential like leaves and things in here. Okay, just feathering some of this stuff here in around the petals. And if I can, what I like to do is get some sharper indications of some of the petals. How do you do that? Well, we're cutting around the light. So I might, for example, go here, there, just, emphasize that petal a bit like that, like this perhaps, in here. Some leaves just coming out on the edges a bit like that as well. We can get a bit of that, some bits and pieces like that. In the sun, there's a bit of green popping out through the back like this, and into the stems. I'm going to go into the stems with a bit of this darker green, and I don't want to make too dark, actually, just a lot of light green. Let's just get that stem, some of these stems in, let's go into the water, as you can see, just like that. Down there, like that. Some of them sort of overlap with each other, some of them don't. Okay. quite sort of thicker stems. Some of them hit the base like that. There. Good. Okay. Great. So, this is looking okay. And I will wait for this to dry a little bit. While that's happening, I'm going to pick up a large mop brush. Let me know how you're going with. I see that there's about maybe 17 to 20 of you watching on YouTube. Is everything running all right for you guys? Let me know how you're doing as well with the the painting. This first step of the painting. It's just like I said, we're painting in all the light here, and let's go and work on some of the darks. Yeah, let's work on some of the darks on the edges. I think I'll go through. Let's do this kind of wall. It's kind of like a brownish red, maybe color. I thought would be good to put it in like this. Okay, just a bit of dark brown. If I can get in some of this texture as well, would be good. So I'm trying to be pretty go dark, but not too dark. That cut around here in the foreground, and yeah, this is a subject I don't normally paint, and I don't have any kind of worries at all of whether this turns out or whether it doesn't turn out. It's just going to be a bit of practice for me to see how it goes, and to show you how to get in this sort of emphasis of light as well. All right, so that's just a bit of that wall here. Let's have a look. What else can we put in? I think like a bit of this windowsill. I can grab, that's another smaller mop brush, and put in some yellow ochre. A little bit of yellow ochre for this light, this really bright light sort of shining through, and maybe put in a bit more vibrancy in there as well, like this. There we are. That's a little bit nicer there, because we do have some light shining through this section. I'll bring it up actually and see if I can just melt it in with the rest of those shadows that are coming on the left side of the scene. Cut around that vase a little bit as well. There, here. All right, down here. There. Okay, good. Okay. Good. Now I'm going to get in some of this really dark background, I suppose, of the window. Pick up a bit of black and maybe purple mixed in there, so it's not too... yeah, so it's got maybe a bit of coolness in it. Okay, just dropping that in there, cutting around this flower here, and I'll bring this all the way down like that. Okay, and create this kind of frame there. Look at that. Do it in one brush stroke if you can. Okay, just one brush stroke. Up the top here as well. Let's just play around with that. A bit more darker color. That, and notice how I'm just leaving in some of that paper, that kind of white of the paper as well. All right. Good. Alrighty. So for basically the rest of this scene, as you can see in here, there's a bit of darkness behind, and this is what we need to bring out in the windows to actually make this vase pop out a little bit. Plus, underneath here in the water, I want to make that a touch dark. I want to add a bit of darkness in there as well. So we'll pick up. I think I've got that same little flat brush And this is going to be very helpful. This is going to be very helpful to get in some of that background. We've got about 19 viewers watching. If you're new here, let me know whereabouts you're watching from and what you'd like to learn. If you have any questions as well, leave them down in the chats, and I'll get to you. But yeah, let's go ahead and put in some of this blue. Tiny bit of this. I've got some cerulean blue here, and I'm using this cerulean blue to cut around some of these petals, okay, of these sunflowers here. See? A little bit of that blue. And that cerulean blue, it just needs to be a little bit darker, tiny bit darker than the flowers around it, to make it look, make those flowers really pop out. And this is where you're actually painting the petals, as you can see. See, I'm just going around and cutting around these petals, and hopefully we're going to get an indication of these kind of flowers, right? Simple like that. Going around using a little flat brush, you know, not much work at all. Okay, like that. What else do we have? We've got some, I don't know, I'm thinking I might put some water and stuff in there, but we'll play around with that later. More of this cerulean blue. I mean, this is really a bit of the blue for this car or whatever there, but it doesn't matter what it is. It's all just abstract stuff out the back. Anyhow, it's no big deal. There we are. Bit of that color. Now, we've also got some potential greens and things as well. Little bits of greens, and so I can just, again, play around with this. And is it a green? I don't know. It's like it's a very subdued color. I'll just maybe put some grays in here as well. And we've got aggressive koala here. Look, you've made it. What time is it for you over there? I was thinking you might show up through this one as well. Frank was thinking that squinting helps a lot with spotting the light and dark areas right from the beginning. Yeah, that's a fantastic tip, Frank. So what Frank says is basically, when you look at the photograph and you squint, it almost reduces the color and the values into just really, really dark values and the light values, so it simplifies it down for you. So you can really see that yellow of the leaves and stuff pop through. Leaves, the petals. Don't know anything about flowers, do I? Let's just go and put in a bit more of this color here up the top. Okay. 7:19 here. Okay, that's pretty early. Well, good to see you could make it, aggressive koala. And I actually ran a session before this, but my internet connection conked out, my computer conked out before, so I wasn't able to get in a whole lot of. I wasn't able to get in a part of the first scene, but most of it was in there, so you can. Yeah, afterwards, I think people on Facebook be able to rewatch both the scenes together, well, separately on separate streams. Should be fine on Facebook. So over here, look, I'm just picking up a bit of this color. I might add in a bit of purple as well. Now, why am I adding in purple? I think because we've got this yellow here, a little bit of purple might emphasize the yellow more because it's a complementary color. Nice complementary color. Okay. Notice how I'm just really taking so much care to cut around those flowers, because once you go over them, once you go over that yellow, it's done. You've only got one chance to do it. We're almost there. And by making, notice how, like, I'm also making the light in the window maintaining, keeping that light in the window. So this wash behind the flowers, it's not too dark. In fact, over here, I think this is a bit too dark near the windowsill. This should be lighter. So check this out. Bit of tissue paper. Easy. Bit more blue here. Maybe just a bit more blue. Cut around this one. Like that. There we go. So it's starting to look like some flowers, yeah? I think it is anyway, a little bit. Okay, but there's still work to do. There's still a little bit more work to do before I'm going to be happy with it, if I'm happy with it. But, you know, this is great practice. Like I said, whether you end up with something that works out or not, these little techniques, it's like practicing your tennis swing or something. It's like a lot of people wait until they get up to a serious sort of painting and then start practicing. But these little sketches are so important. Okay, good. I don't know. There's like little sharper shapes as well for things out in the background. Whether you want to put that in, it's no big deal. I thought I would just do something like that. Why not? Good. Sometimes as well, I don't know if I'm able to right now, but you can pick out a little blade like this, just a pocket knife, and scratch at the paper. And what does this do? It just creates some little textures and lines and things, you know. This is already dried. It's a bit late for that. It's probably a little bit late, but you know what I can do is re-wet some parts of the paper. I can just spray here, for example. Give it a second, and I might be able to scratch off some paint. But before I do that, I really do want to get in some a little bit of darkness below. A little bit of darkness below the cup. It's slightly darker. It's almost like a greenish value, isn't it? Like, you see, half the cup, half full, not half empty. So just put in a bit of that color to indicate that water in the cup. Yeah, this is a really tricky one because the bottom of it is pretty light as well. There's not much color near the bottom, just something like that. And then as you go up to the top, you've actually got the window, part of the window showing through. If you can see it, just part of the windowsill kind of reflecting through in the background like that. I don't want to make it too obvious. And I've actually got the windowsill up in an area that's a bit too further down instead of up. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to go with it. Okay. What else do we have? I do think that I want to... Just something I want to do with these stems, maybe up the top, just some more green to emphasize the darkness of some of these stems more before it kind of hits the water. A bit more green, a little bit more green in here. Because of course this area, all these stems have already dried, so you can go back in there and darken some of them a bit. Okay, do it once and then just leave it like that. Yeah, the base of this cup as well, like it's got this darkness underneath here. Bit of potentially like a little bit of darkness in here. God, this is like a lot more. It's one of those subjects that you look at and you think, oh, it's going to be easy, but it's not. You've also got this shadow. Can you see that just in the front of the cup, the vase, whatever? Where is it? It's like extending out here. Yeah, into the front of the scene. Darken that down a little more. And I want that to blend in with the bottom of this wall, what you call it, ledge. Bottom of that ledge. A little bit more blend in there. Okay. Just lift off a bit of paint to encourage it to run in there a touch and just blend nicely. Let's have a look on the left hand side here. We've also got more shadows. We've got these. I'm going to mix a bit of purple in there, but basically a purplish shadow I'm going to get in just for the sake of it here. And it's quite a light shadow as well, like this. I'm using a round brush. Try this round brush because I'm not, for some reason, I just keep staying away from round brushes these days. I'm picking up a lot of flat brushes and uh, but round brushes not really. I don't know. I sort of find them a bit harder to work with when I'm painting buildings. But when you're painting stuff like this, it might be easier. Okay, drop that in the side. Okay, not bad. What have we got here? Again, a bit of that shadow on the side of that vase here. There, let's just continue on. The thing about these smaller round brushes, they drive me nuts because they don't pick up enough water. So I end up going back to these mop brushes that doesn't give me as much control, but I don't have to keep having to reload my brush all the time. Um, right, let's continue. Yeah, that's a good point, Frank. With the reflection and refraction, like you see where the stems hit the water, and I haven't really implied that too much in this in mine, but you can see where the stems hit the water, like it's almost that it's like they shift position a little bit to the left and look slightly even enlarged in areas. Especially in the left side of the scene, you can see there's some interesting things going on there. Uh, okay. Yeah, this is definitely not a scene that I paint usually, and I think it's because I just don't have the interest a lot of the time to paint still life scenes. So, but you'd be surprised, I always manage to surprise myself anyway at attempting something, and then I realize I actually enjoyed it. I actually like that subject, So I try to keep an open mind and give things a go. Because I always tell people to give things a go, so I should take some of my own medicine from time to time. Now, these flowers, I think a bit of shadow underneath the flowers would be good, like just in areas where we can see that there's a touch of, basically a touch of darkness. Okay, and I can see some here. Maybe I need to pick up more color. This is just a bit of neutral tint, and I've mixed it in with some yellow. Maybe some. Where is that flat brush again? Grab that flat brush again. It's a tricky one because also I've realized now that these bits of black areas of the sunflowers, the darker area anyway, it's it's uh, it's kind of dried off lighter. So I want to redo some of that at the expense of obviously like potentially stuffing up that previous wash, but let's just go with it. Okay, there's some. The bottom of these flowers are really important because they show the direction show the direction that they're facing, like that one there, that shows the flowers facing kind of like downwards. Okay, I'm gonna mix up a bit of darker yellow paint. Maybe some yellow ochre is actually going to solve this for me. Yeah, like I don't want it to be too dark. Like this, maybe. That's better. Yeah, that's actually a good color. A bit of that yellow ochre. Like that. So it's still yellow, but yeah, like a darker yellow. Some of the leaves, petals of these ones there. And guys, like I always think that sometimes with these flowers, the faster you do it, it's especially with these loose sort of flower shapes, it just looks better. There are artists out there that paint really realistic flowers. Um, I'm not one of them. I'm not really much of a flower guy, as you probably have realized. But we'll give it a go anyway. Okay. It's looking all right. Don't know. It's looking all right, but few things I want to add in. Maybe a bit more darkness to some of these stems. Look, the other windows as well, I think would be good to just get in some of the detail for these other windows. And I'm going to just replicate the colors from the left side of the window, but just, yeah, just drop that in, kind of grayish, purplish colors in there. And, you know, you've also got these, like, some petals that are running to the right, like that. So cutting around those petals as well. Look at that, just quick things, quick little bits and pieces of color. A bit more purple, maybe a bit more of that cerulean blue. Oops, in there. Move some of that up actually to these two windows. Yeah. Move that down a bit. Definitely need to practice more of these still life scenes. The flowers I think up the top there look all right. Could improve this section a lot more. But I mean, not bad. How for like a 30-minute thing, isn't it? How long have we been painting for? Probably about 30 minutes or so. Yeah, probably about that long. Okay, now I want to put in a bit of potentially just a bit of texture here and there on the page, on the bricks and stuff like that. Okay, so I can get myself. What have I got? I still have some of these mop brushes lying around, and maybe I can just grab some paints and just drop, like, just imply some bricks or whatever. You see that? Just some little, using the side of the brush like that, you can imply like a brick. Look at that. It's not much, but if we go in there too harsh, it's going to, well, one, it's going to detract from the rest of the scene. Two, I don't think it's going to really look like those bricks in the first place. So I want to just use this sort of the side of the brush to do this, and kind of like dry brush. Can you see that? I'm just sort of dry brushing the edge of the page to get in this impression of these bricks, this brick wall. And you've even got like little textures and things running through the ledge over here. You can just get in a bit of that here as well. The sharpness, one thing I'm not too pleased with it is that I think that there should be more sharpness separating the vase with the background as well. looking okay, but I think we need more darkness here on this side of this wall. A little bit more, got some black in there. Let's drop in some of this stuff. Yeah, I'm just leaving a bit of the center part to show that kind of mortar and the bricks. It was kind of fun. I really like this texturing. So we can learn as well, just getting a bit of practicing for these textures, you know. Look, that looks all right. I think the first one turned out definitely a lot better. I hope you guys enjoyed today's session. A bit of a hiccup halfway through with my computer crashing. Frank's saying adding white or lifting color would emphasize more the light effect. Yes, definitely. You can definitely add in a little bit more. I'll show you actually some lifting techniques. Just give me a second. I'll dry it off first. Yeah. Firstly, I want to maybe fix this top section up. There's not enough blue up the top there. Doesn't match the window below. So another quick wash I think might help with that. There we go. Just make it a bit more uniform looking. Okay. And yeah, that lifting off technique. I've got this brush called a filbert brush, which is this. It's kind of like a I don't know what you call it. It's like a brush that you can use to scratch off, rub off bits of paint, and I use it with the tissue and a bit of water. So if I say want to emphasize this area a bit more, put a bit of water, lift off that paint, and oh, this water is shocking. It's just got lots of grays and stuff in it, but we get away with it. But check this out. You can soften off some areas of these, like areas of these flowers, the tips of what you would call it, the petals, like that, and you can bring back the light just by lifting off in areas. You know, you might even find areas at the back that you want to lighten up as well. You can do that. You can soften off parts that are too harsh. I've seen artists that do this to just such a amazing effect, create this really soft atmospheric kind of look. You don't have to do this though. The edge of this window, maybe I can just get in a bit of, I don't know, indication of some light, and you know, the grout, not the grout, sorry, the mortar running through the bricks. See, just a bit of water there, lift off. That was a good idea, Frank. Thanks for that. Just make it look a bit messier. And you know, when you're using these, I use a lot of granulating browns, and we use these granulating browns. They're just so easy to lift off. Another scene I want to do sometime that has to do with textures is like a barn door or something like that. You see those done pretty often by artists, and that they I would have done one earlier, but they don't really interest me. But in the sense, that's because it doesn't interest me, I now want to give it a try, because the whole point of a lot of these sketching workshops I'm doing these days is even to get me get me trying something a bit different. I tend to paint the same thing over and over without, left to my own devices. And to be a more well-rounded painter anyway, I think, is to challenge yourself and learn different scenes, and may not work out. A lot of my paintings don't work out, in fact, you know. So that's looking okay. That's looking all right. Um, a bit of gouache as well. Bit of can bring back some light into areas. I'm just thinking, what else can we possibly do here? I'm gonna just squeeze out. Maybe actually I do have some gouache here. I can just use some of that. But yeah, if you have any final questions, let me know down in the chats, and I'll get to you before we finish off today's live. It's actually gone a lot longer than I'd expected. It's gone for nearly 2 hours. I thought I'd be done by now. Keep losing my brush. Okay. Bit of white gouache mixed with yellow. Get a warm coloured, opaque sort of colour there. Yeah. I reckon let's just use some fresh stuff. A bit of fresh gouache. Water. There's like, you can see here just some reflections and like lighter reflections here in the water that I'd missed out on before. Don't know, can try to get that in. But it's always best, I find, to try to do this stuff earlier on. Leave it out of the cut around it. Yeah. The best thing I like about this scene is the bricks. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to call it for this one. Let's look at both of the scenes together. I had fun attempting this. Probably not the best flowers I've done, but it highlights, for you anyway, a couple of techniques that we've tried out. So in terms of that process, getting in those light colors first, cutting around them with some darker colors, and at the same time, adding in some lighter colors near the end if possible, with some gouache. Oh, I've gone a bit too far up on the top. Doesn't matter. Let's pull this out and have a look at both of these scenes for today. I might just shift my palette over a touch as well. I'm going to check, the chats. Yeah, aggressive koala says, not a still life person, but definitely give it a try. Yeah, look, me neither. I thought I thought this was a good reference to show you some of those techniques to portray light in your watercolors. And I think, yeah, Frank reminded me of a really good technique at the end where you're rubbing off a bit of that water, that paint with a brush and some clean water, and just lifting it off with some tissue paper, and you can bring back some of that light. Okay, but you can see by using that three-step method, like I said, where you're painting in all your lighter colors, cutting around it with your darker colors, and finishing it off at the end with some nice sharper dark colors, really makes that light pop out. You can see that light source is coming through the window. So this is definitely a scene that I want to attempt again a second time. And Frank's asking, do you think rough paper would have done a better job with the textured type of the flower? image. Yeah, I think so. So with the bricks especially, I think that rough paper would have made my life a bit easier. I think attempting this sort of texture on this sort of paper here, which is hot press paper, very tricky. And which reminds me again, you know, hot press on the left and cold press or medium textured paper on the right. You can see the difference. You can see how the colors, they blend together and they granulate more. They dry a bit more in a consistent manner. Where if you look over here to the left, to get this soft shadow in there, that was really tricky. You know, parts of it wasn't drying down the base; it was pooling in areas. You know, here in the sky, the clouds look nice, but there's just a bit of, as you can see, a little bit of inconsistencies in the way it dries. For some reason, the textured paper, it sort of allows that particulate matter to spread out in a more dispersed manner than when you have flat paper. Like, I'm guessing because of the troughs, the dips and the troughs, in here it's more kind of evenly dispersed, whereas here, because the paper warps, you do get areas where the water pools, and where it pools, or more pigment accumulates there, and so you get these weird little clumpy bits in here and there. But I really like hot press paper because it just allows you to get this nice sharpness in there that I really like. Dries quickly, I can work fast, which is, believe it or not, I'm a very impatient painter. Just, I don't want to spend more than an hour or so painting. And Frank's asking, were these cotton paper or cellulose? They're cotton paper, Frank. So I normally, if possible, work with cotton paper. It gives you extra time. The techniques, especially all these wet and wet techniques, are carried out with much more ease and efficiency. You know, with cellulose paper, I find that it dries quickly. You have to work fast. It's cellulose paper in many ways reminds me of hot press cotton paper. But yeah, with cellulose, I find when you go over the paper again in a second wash, that first wash at times lifts up. You know, I don't see it happen as much on cotton paper, especially medium textured paper, unless you really scrub away at it, as you saw what I was doing before. But cellulose paper, it's as if they apply a lot of sizing over the top of it, so the paint doesn't really go through the fibers, it sits on top. And yeah, it's very prone to lifting. So if you're painting on cellulose, I just suggest to use 2 layers max, and try not to scrub away or go over an area too much in the second wash, because that's going to lift off that first layer of paint. Foolish Juan says, I think it looks pretty good. Thanks. Thank you. It's it's not bad. I've not attempted this one before. You know, I do like some of the petals and the texture of the bricks. A few things I can improve on, but again, that's what sketching is about. It's not about producing a perfect piece of art. It's about learning, and it's about just getting that paper, that brush to the paper, and practicing, and not worrying, not worrying whether it's going to work out or not. And what brand of paper using? I'm using a brand called Balhong paper. So it's paper that's 100% cotton, available for a pretty good price here in Australia. And I've used all kinds of papers. I've used Fabriano. I used to use Arsh. You know, I used to use my other favorite kind of paper is Saunders Waterford. It's English. It's from English paper from the UK. I think it's in. I can't remember which area it's from, but it's a fantastic paper as well. What I find with Balhong paper is that it's got a very interesting texture, that medium texture. I don't even know if I can show you what it looks like properly, maybe up on camera. Maybe just zoom in a little bit to show you. I don't know if it's focusing. See, it's like this really sandpapery almost texture. Yeah, I quite like it. It takes a bit of time to get used to. Yeah. Oh, you use the same stuff too. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's great value paper, you know. And what you do as well, I just buy this in big sheets, like 56 by 76 centimeter sheets, imperial sized. And I just tear it down myself into these smaller sheets and, you know, just use that. You can even make little sketchbooks out of it. Awesome. That's good to hear, Frank. Thank you for coming along. Appreciate your questions and yeah, just helping me out today as well with that tip at the end. I almost forgot about that lifting out tip. So, guys, I think that's about it. I'm gonna finish this one off, and before I go as well, just a quick reminder: if you like the video, do me a favor and click the like button on the video and share it with a friend, because it just really helps for me to get it out to more people. In the video description as well, if you enjoy my classes and you want to learn, if you want to take some of my more in-depth classes, I have a 70 course program that's available. Just got to click the link and get in. I've got it on special this weekend, so you can click that and purchasing at 70 courses for $297. There's also at my Patreon you can go to and sign up if you want to support me continue running these workshops, and at the same time you get access to up to 85 of my courses just for $30 a month. There's also a $10 and $20 a tier as well. So I think that's pretty much it for today. I'm going to finish the stream off, and I'll see you all next time.